Order. The City of Apache Junction City Council meeting to order. The invocation will be led by the Vice Mayor, and the Councilman pledge for the American flag will be done by Councilman Peter Heck.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of being gathered here today to do the city's business on behalf of our constituents. We ask that each of us be guided by you in the decisions we make that will affect others and not by any personal agenda or ego. We ask to be humble in our disagreements and that we never forget we are here to serve the people of this beautiful community. Father, we ask for your continued protection over all of our first responders, those serving in our military, and their family members. We ask that they be brought home safely each and every day. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rizzi,
Present.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Heck,
Here.
Councilmember Johnson,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. As a reminder, all items under the consent agenda will be approved with one motion. If a council member wishes to remove an item for further discussion, the request will be made prior to approving the consent agenda and be moved to new business. Do I have a motion for accepting of the agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the consent agenda is accepted as presented and approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously, Your Honor.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay, awards and presentations and proclamations. Got down here, Chief Pulley, you're going to start? If not, I will. Okay. There's a note down here, so I wanted to make sure. Okay, I have three proclamations up here to present. National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Whereas the City of Apache Junction recognized the importance of Alzheimer's and related dementia care, whereas Alzheimer's and related dementia have significant impact on health and well-being of our residents, and whereas more than 150,000 Arizonans live with Alzheimer's, which is the fifth leading cause of death in the state, and whereas Arizonans are actively engaged in educating about the disease, advocating for proper continuum of care, improving the training and care of patients with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia, and whereas the City of Apache Junction supports those with Alzheimer's addressing this public health crisis. I, therefore, Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2022 as National Alzheimer's Awareness Month. Kerr, Baxter.
We
Okay.
were informed they would be present this evening, Your Honor.
All right. I'll just put it up here. We'll move on to the next one. National Indian Heritage Month, November 2022. Whereas this month is an opportunity to gain a greater knowledge of Native Americans and honor all indigenous people on planet Earth, and whereas in Arizona, 22 federally recognized tribal nations have inhabited these lands continuously, prevailed against untold hardship, uphold their traditions, and contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America. today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of a rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas the City of Apache Junction celebrates the positive and significant relationship between our nearest neighbor, the Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian Community, the Fort McDowell Yavapai Nation, and the Gila River Indian Community, and we welcome more social and culture interactions. And whereas in honor of the National American Indian Heritage Month, I encourage everyone to explore the original narratives, artworks, indicate family bonds, and to understand the ancient living values of Arizona tribe nations. Now, therefore, I, Chip Wilson, Mayor, City of Apache Junction, do hereby proclaim the month of November 2022 National Indian Heritage Month. And I have for Peggy, and not you.
Not that Peggy. She got real nervous.
My wife's name's Peggy. She's for the-
Ironically, I'm Jenny Morrison. I'm accepting it on behalf of the committee of the DAR.
Okay,
And I,
What? yeah, here.
and then also, if it was possible for us to get.
Yep, you'll go up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, come on up. Come on up.
The other members can just go on up.
Yeah.
Other members?
And let's,
Come on down, don't be shy.
Al, let's get.
He forgets. I usually gotta track him down. But yeah, it's the easiest way.
Yeah, just take it and then send it to someone. Either he could take 10 pictures with 10 different cameras.
I will. Well, thank you again. I'm Jenny Morrison. I'm a member of the Apache Trail NSDAR, and I'm humbled and honored to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Apache Trail chapter and the American Indian Committee. NSDAR is a genealogical service organization dedicated to the recognition and preservation of our nation's rich and diverse history. Brave men and women have made this nation strong with their own dedication and sacrifice. In 1921, it was determined that more needed to be done, and the goal became to enrich the lives also of the Native American Indians. The schools, we currently support camps, scholarships to universities that are dedicated to the Native American, the Chippewa Indian School in America, the Indian Youth Camp, all that are primarily Native American populations. And also, as far as what happened last year in the pandemic, and heeded the call to supplies as much as we could as far as supplies to the Navajo and Arapaho, and also masks. Women got to their sewing machines and made masks in the thousands. And I know for my part, I personally was able to support my students who are also of the Navajo tribe. And I was just wanted to say again, thank you so much for this opportunity. It is humbling because there is so much rich history that could have and should not be lost. And as the proclamation says, the contribution both to this nation and while preserving their own rich history of all the different tribes, both represented here in Arizona and across our great nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, my next proclamation, Small Business Saturday, November 26, 2022. Whereas the city of Apache Junction celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there is 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. And whereas small businesses employ 47% of employees in the private sector in the United States, 88% of U.S. customers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic, and 92% of small business owners have changed their ways to do business to stay open during the pandemic. And whereas 97% of small business Saturday shoppers recognize the impact that they can make by shopping small, 85% of them also encourage friends and families to shop local small businesses. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, do hereby proclaim November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday. Mary Ann? I'll take it off myself this time.
I'm Mary Ann Shabilsky. I'm the President and CEO of the Apache Junction Area Chamber of Commerce. And Mayor and Council, thank you so much for this very important proclamation. On behalf of the Chamber Board and the small business community, this is so important to recognize the contribution that they make to our community. As you know, small businesses are the heartbeat of the business community here in Apache Junction. And Small Business Saturday is their launch to the holiday shopping. So I encourage everyone to shop small, shop local on Small Business Saturday, November 26th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, regional intergovernmental updates. Anyone have anything?
Your Honor,
Yes?
I had the opportunity last week to participate in a Zoom meeting call with GPEC, that's the Greater Phoenix Economic Council. The topic was Arizona's position on water, and it was a very informative meeting. Obviously, there are concerns that are present. They reviewed those, but what encouraged me is that they have some very, very astute experts that are working on solutions. They recognize that something has to happen, and it's not being ignored, and I think that was very helpful. The second item, I had an opportunity today with several other council members and the vice mayor to celebrate an event at the high school. It was the Navy. Are you gonna, am I taking your thunder again?
No?
It just is the next item.
Okay. You want me to leave, want me to let it go now? Every time I do this, I'm taking your. It was the event celebrating the Navy Junior ROTC program. They're celebrating 25 years of excellence, and they were actually conducting their annual military inspection. And we had the opportunity to observe that. It was very rewarding to see these young men and women conduct themselves so professionally. You know, these are our future leaders. And sometimes when I think about the younger generation, I scratch my head a little bit. But these folks, they are dedicated. They were so professional, and they followed their orders. They did exactly as they were supposed to do. And I was greatly encouraged that these will be some very fine leaders. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I participated today in the PARTA meeting. It's Pinal Regional Transportation Authority. A lot of focus is on Prop 469, which is the new tax will be on the ballot here in a week from today. This is to renew the tax for the roads for north-south corridor, things like that. Since they put this on the ballot, they have come out, they've done a town square, or town hall, I'm sorry, but Mayor Wilson attended that, so I'll just pass that over to him when he's ready to do it. But they have come out with a 2-page and an 8-page brochure. They have videos about it on social media. At pinalrta.org is their website. You can learn everything you need to know about it there. And also PARTA on, excuse me, November 3rd at the Multi-Gen Center at 6 p.m. there is a open house for the PARTA. Not only about the 469, but just about who they are, what they do, and public is welcome. I highly recommend everybody going out there and checking that out. And I was with Peter at that, their junior ROTC. Now, I learned something today that they are on probation. So if they don't get 10% of the student body to participate, they are going to pull the ROTC, which would be a shame. So I would encourage anybody that knows any young individual that seeks, structure and discipline. A lot of kids may like to do that, to join this program, because I for one, I don't want to see it leave the city.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to just add to what Robert just said. I have a friend whose son was with the ROTC here at our high school about 10 or 15 years ago, but he was such a good student that he got all of his education paid at the Naval Academy. And I think they said it was what he was awarded was something like $300,000 worth of education. So, sending having your kids join ROTC can give them a free education.
Okay, I'm going to touch on the base in that town hall meeting that we had this Sunday night. It was an opportunity for people to call in and ask questions, and it was something that was, I'll say, unique for me anyway. It answered several questions, and of course they had some general information that we passed out concerning the whole project on it. And what this is to reaffirm the project that was initially voted on by voters back in 2017 and continuing it on. It is something that the entire Pinal County needs, and it's going to help us out. And in our area, it's going to help out for the transportation going to and from I'm going to say out at the airport, but also for us, it's going to be an alternative way for someone that's coming up I-10 to come the north-south corridor all the way up into our area immediately and avoid all the congestions that's going on into the Phoenix area. We had 206 callers that called in, and when it was all over with, an hour later, there was 196 that were left on board. And so the interest was there to keep them involved and wanting to learn what was going on. In addition, this past Monday, yesterday, we went to up to Scottsdale to the Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian community, and the Gila River Indian community as well, for what they call Salt River Shares. And it was to recognize and to show to all of us, what they are actively involved with our communities. And of course, if you remember, we just approved passing through a little over $300,000 to the fire district, the Superstition Fire and Medical District, for some very, very needed equipment that they need to be out there for us. Some of it's in for first respond needs. Some of it is in a truck that is needed. So they are very thankful for the assistance that they received from them. And a couple years ago, we received some funds for our own police for radios. And that was something that we received from them as well in their grants. So it is a working relationship that we have with them, and they know exactly where Apache Junction is. In fact, some of them even live fairly close to us out here, and they even shop in our own community. So they're very active in our area. Okay. With that, I'll go to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bryant Powell, City Manager. I'm very happy to report some exciting news from our library. Al, I don't know if you have that photo. There it is. So this is Megan Carbiner, and she was recently awarded by the Arizona Library Association the Emerging Leader Award for 2022 at the annual conference in Prescott. And this award is open and presented to any person working in a library who shows exceptional promise as a leader in the field. The purpose of this award is to recognize individuals with strong leadership potential, to encourage them to take on roles of even more responsibility. So tonight I just wanted you all to get to know her a little bit more, and we've got some great folks that are doing some great things and being recognized by their associations. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Al for update on current events.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. City Manager. Members of the City Council, Mayor Wilson, Al Bravo, Public Information Officer for the City of Apache Junction. We have a couple of things just to make sure everyone is aware of, including yourselves. You should be aware by this point now that traffic along Ironwood Drive, south of the city, or the southern edge of the city now, since we've annexed it, is beginning to take shape, and that means there's going to be a lot of restrictions along those ways of getting from the Santan Valley and Queen Creek areas up to Apache Junction and to the US 60 and beyond. So I encourage everyone to check our homepage, ApacheJunctionAZ.gov, for all updates of anything going on traffic-wise, road-wise in the city. We try to keep that updated as best we can. We know we have a lot of folks down there who have been informed that Ironwood is now going to be squeezed down to a couple of lanes as we get ready for the big development down south. A couple of events coming up that everybody should be aware of. This Saturday is Household Hazardous Waste Collection Day. That's, of course, at our city yard on Baseline. Make sure you remember that Baseline becomes a one-way eastbound street during that time between 8 and noon. Anyone from the city can take part in that. You can, again, go to the website. You can see what is allowed and what isn't allowed as far as household hazardous waste. Next week, it's Free Dump Week. That's always one that's very popular that I want to make sure everybody knows about. Every city resident is allowed to take a truck full of trash to the dump for free between Monday and Saturday of next week. As we mentioned before, Election Day is now just 1 week away, so it's probably too late for you to put your ballot in the mail. You should either drop it off at a drop-off box or take it to your polling place if you're not already voting in person on November the 8th. Again, as Council Member Schroeder mentioned, there is the open house on Proposition 469 at the MGC. That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. A couple of things that are coming up, of course, next week. It's Veterans Day, and that means there's the annual Veterans Day Parade along Apache Trail. That's happening on the 11th. There's more going on the 11th, of course. There's a Veterans Tribute. Let me go before we go to that. And there is, that's in Flatiron Park, but there's also events happening at VFW Post 9399, which is on Apache Trail and Saguaro, more or less, happening in the afternoon after the parade and into the evening. And Councilmember Johnson can probably fill us in a little more details on that.
Well, this year as the host post, because we kind of trade them around between different organizations, and this year it is at 9399 at 133 North Saguaro Drive. After the parade, we'll be having, like a free lunch of hot dogs, hamburgers. We always encourage we bring in the ROTCs. They come in and enjoy our post and get to know our veterans. And then we'll be having that very large lot behind our building. We'll have bounce houses, things for the kids, food trucks, and then in the evening we are having a Leonard Skinner tribute band. And it's like we all are a little down home, so we invite everybody to bring their own lawn chairs because it's a really big lot. And as always, the VFW uses the money it raises for all of our programs which help our area veterans, their families, our homeless shelters, and our food banks.
Thank you, Councilmember. So that is also on the 11th. Then the following day, of course, on the 12th in Flatiron Park is Festival of the Superstitions. You can go to the Chamber of Commerce website, ajchamber.com, for more details of that. And one more plug for my favorite program, only because I get to run it. A Citizen Leadership Institute starts up in January for folks learning, hoping to learn more about municipal government, and our municipal government in particular, and a great training for other ways to serve in your community and become engaged. So go to ApacheJunctionAZ.gov/CLI to register for that, and we'll see you in January. And those are your announcements for November 1st, All Saints Day,
No,
2022.
wanted to make one correction to it, is that Thursday's at the Multi-Generation Center, not this coming Tuesday.
It is Thursday, you're correct.
Not tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I wanted to add one thing to your hazardous waste cleanup. If anybody does not have a way to get their items to the cleanup over on Baseline Road, please call the city, ask for Fox Young. He'll get in contact with the Community Development Corporation, and we will come to your home and pick up whatever you need to dispose of for free. Wow. So I wanted to add that, and I forgot about our great Halloween night that we had. It was huge, and our pumpkins in the junction, it was the first year for that, and 400 people showed up. It was huge. So we had a very exciting Halloween weekend. Thank you.
And I'll add on the tail end for the hazardous waste, don't arrive 5 minutes past 12, because they will turn you away. Speaking from experience.
Your Honor, we're also just super pleased with the new location. It gives a little breathing room. So, when we keep growing, we need new spots. I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone involved, and especially our Parks and Rec department. They did a great job organizing that and being able to handle it. Bunch of great feedback that we're getting on it, and look forward to keep it going.
Yeah.
Okay, Krista.
For the events, yeah, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the Parks and Recreation Department. If you ever get called to judge, it's hard. It's hard because they were all good, but like Gail had said, the event was, it was huge. So many people had commented. It was a great event. We got to see I didn't get to attend, but I got to see online pumpkins in the pool. I forget what that was called, but that was neat. People were having fun. The kids were jumping in and getting pumpkins. We just got a lot of great things going on. I also wanted to share in the Apache Junction School District's ROTC inspection and award ceremony this morning. And I just wanted to make a few comments about that. It was, part of their ceremony was to remember and to honor, and this is a little bit emotional, the 82,000 American soldiers that were POW MIAs. It was very sobering, very humbling, the way that they honored them and remembered them. And there was, they had in their opening ceremony, this is something that was very touching, that really resonated with me. They opened with a prayer. And in a day and age where so often staff and students are told that they can't pray in schools, they opened with a prayer, unapologetically, very boldly, and that was pretty awesome. And they laid a Bible as part of the setting for the MIA POW table. It was also very humbling. And you know, Peter and Robert had mentioned, man, these kids just going out in this world today, getting ready to join the service and defend this country. Hopefully in the future years, if they're able to keep the program going, COVID hit, the school district has fought to keep this program going for our kids. It's important. We're about 40 kids shy. I understand we're at 60. We need at minimum 100 to keep it going. It is in jeopardy. It's the last couple years when COVID hit and the schools were shut down, it really jeopardized that program. If you know any of these kids that want to get involved, that want to join, get them signed up. But these kids are really our future, and it was just it was a huge honor to go to that. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, public hearings. Presentation, discussion, public hearing, consideration of resolution number 2242, a proposed preliminary plat on case P 21-98-SD.
Your Honor? Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to be recusing myself from deliberating and voting on this item since I made a recommendation to council on this matter last year in my capacity as a Planning and Zoning Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We'll try to remember to call you back.
I was thinking pizza.
Apple pie for me.
He's taking orders.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Council. The Old West Highway Village preliminary plat was previously brought to the City Council for a work session earlier in October. As noted, it is a preliminary plat establishing the tentative map and conceptual plan for the future subdivision of these two properties located about halfway between Royal Palm Road and Tomahawk Road on the south side of Old West Highway Village. Previously, this property was rezoned and had a conceptual plan adopted by the City Council on February 2nd, 2021. The idea in the conceptual plan and the zoning entitlements were for a 106, well, it was, at that time, it was a 107 unit townhome subdivision. Currently, it is being proposed at 106 units, approximately 7.7 net acres just south of Old West Highway. As we look at the broader context, within the area, there has been recent multifamily proposed and rezoned in the area, as well as some apartments just to the west. We are aware of the residential in the area around it, but as was noted, this zoning was adopted February of last year. This was the conceptual plan that was adopted at the time as part of PZ 120, the rezoning case, and then Ordinance 1501. As part of that ordinance, there were several stipulations and conditions of approval that the applicant had to meet when they actually proposed the preliminary plat. This is the current design of the preliminary plat. As was been noted before, they made several adjustments in order to better mesh and harmonize with the neighborhood around them, as well as in order to provide a project and a product at the quality that was requested by the council at that time, including things such as amenities, and as is noted here, there were limitations on the height in the perimeter of the site. So specifically, 2 and 3 story buildings had been proposed. And while it is that way throughout most of the site, the west and south border of the property will only be limited to 2-story buildings, as has been noted on the plat itself. And this action and the consideration and the adoption of Resolution 2242 today would establish this as the preliminary plat for the property. Other items in the conditions of approval were the introduction of further amenity features, things like tot lots, and in this case, the applicant has provided a pickleball court in the southwest corner of the property, In different spots, there's barbecue spots and cabanas for the use of residents, all in line and in keeping with the conditions of approval of the original zoning ordinance. And so they have made these additions to the site in order to make sure that they complied with all of the requirements. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 6-0 to recommend the approval of P2198 SD, subject to the conditions of approval found in the staff report, and adding to condition 4, quote, stronger language to ensure that it is clear who is responsible for the maintenance if the HOA should disappear. So staff has taken the conditions of approval that were recommended in the staff report and has worked in order to provide stronger language, which is now reflected in Resolution 2242. So staff finds that the proposed preliminary plat is in compliance with the conceptual plans approved in PZ 120 and Ordinance 1501, and likewise recommends approval. I'd like to answer any questions. The applicant is also here to answer questions if you have any further.
Any questions?
No.
I'd just like to know if there's a time frame of when they are planning on starting development.
I will say that following the action, and if Resolution 2242 is passed, that establishes a preliminary plat, they must then go through the final plat process, which takes several months as they lay down the actual infrastructure plans for the site, like where utility lines are going to go and so forth. However, they will be able to answer further construction timeline questions.
Your Honor, I would like to know the answer to that question. We go through a lot of rezonings, and I'd like that specifically. Could, Your Honor, Councilmember Evans, do you want to hear from the applicant?
No.
Yeah, I'd like to hear what he has to say.
I'd like to hear that too.
Good. Oh, boy.
Your Honor, we've actually gone through several rezonings of some of these properties. This is many times, and so
Yep.
from my perspective, for the community and transparency,
It's
Let's
nice
hear.
to know.
it's nice to know.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Greg Loper, 22575 West Mojave in Buckeye. I'm here tonight representing Frank Delarmy. He's sitting in the back trying to hide. For those of you that know him, he just celebrated his 70th birthday, so
Wow.
make sure you tell him happy birthday for that. I'm here to answer any questions that may come up. Our plan in terms of when this would develop, we hope to be breaking ground on it in just under a year. As Nicholas mentioned, we have to go through the improvement plan process and the platting process. That's for people that are a lot smarter than me to figure out how to make water flow downhill and electricity run through wires. But in all seriousness, that's part of the process. So I would anticipate, if it all goes smoothly, that we would probably be breaking ground this time next year, more likely probably just after the first of the year. It's difficult to start construction in November, December. I hope that adequately answers the question.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have questions for him or for Nick?
A happy birthday.
Yes.
You look great. Whatever you're doing, you look great.
I'll pay for that.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this item? Yes, step forward.
This is the only one.
Mayor Wilson, honored members of the council, thank you for allowing me to say a few words. I'm new to the area. I fell in love with Apache Junction a couple of years ago, and I would drive down Old West Highway, and I would see this plot of land, good-sized plot of land, kind of underutilized and fairly unsightly, a lot of overgrowth. This plan, I think, is phenomenal for the community as a whole. It's going to add, I think, 105 or 106 units. It's going to beautify the area, and I don't think I need to talk too much about improving the tax base of the town. So I think, all in all, it's a win-win for everyone. I'm looking to buy in the area, and I'll be one of the people buying one of these units probably next year. So I humbly request you to look at this project in a favorable light and to see it as a big positive for the town of Apache Junction. That's all I have to say. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening.
So get the show rolling. That's what he's saying. He wants to buy one.
Just Jennifer, what his name?
Okay, anyone else would like to speak on this? Don't see any movement, so I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that resolution number 22-42, a resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, a proposed preliminary plat for what is tentatively known as Old West Highway Village, consisting of 106 residential townhomes, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay. Get ready to start as quickly as you can. There you go. Old business. We have no old business, so new business. Presentation and discussion on proposed resolution number 22-37, which adopts the 2022 Pinal County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazardous Mitigation Plan. Shane.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. Shane Kiesel, your Public Works Manager. Yeah, thanks for having me to discuss Resolution 2237 tonight, which is our updated 2022 Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Plan. So we'll just jump right into that here tonight. So the main action that staff is asking tonight is the opportunity to present. I'll really condense what this multi-hazard mitigation plan is all about. Opportunity for you to ask questions. And then also, if you feel comfortable tonight, to go ahead and vote for the resolution, which will be our adoption of the plan. So this multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan is a planning document, and I'll talk a little bit more about that planning document. And it is collaborative, so the multi-jurisdiction means it was spearheaded by Pinal County, and it included a lot of the incorporated areas within the county, including Apache Junction, with me as a representative. I think I've gone through this 4 times, and I think this is the 3rd time I am before you talking about this multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan that goes back to 2005 when we had our first plan that we developed. And FEMA requires this as an update every 5 years, so that's why we have this new resolution, updated plan about every 5 years. And the purpose, just a really high-level purpose, it's a tool to assess and mitigate hazards through pre-planning. So this plan is not necessarily an emergency response plan. It's the systems and pre-planning processes to identify the things that we construct, the facilities that we have, to harden them or protect them from natural disasters, flooding incidences, storms that may knock out electrical power, etc. So this is not necessarily an emergency response plan. It's a planning document to help mitigate hazards that those structures may face in the future. Many of you might have seen this before, but every $1 spent on the mitigation measure saves about $4 in future losses. And that $4 is maybe about $6 now with inflation, but somewhere around there. So you could see it definitely has a multiplier effect for the better plans we have to mitigate flooding, as seen through the different ordinances, building codes, et cetera, that we have, the better. This is set forth back in the Mitigation Act of 2000, so that's why we saw our first plan in 2005 being required. And a big part of this, so this is the fish hook here. With our adoption of this hazard mitigation plan, it keeps us eligible for certain types of disaster assistance and grant funding. So that's really important what's on the table here tonight with adoption of this resolution. So, again, overall mitigation measures or objectives, overall goals that you see in these plans, as well as the plans previous since 2005, is reduce or eliminate those hazards to number one, people, and then property, and thirdly, that property being critical facilities. And it's not just all government critical facilities. When we're talking critical facilities, we have to definitely include the private sector, developments being developed with hazard mitigation in mind as they construct on private property, right down to the individual property households within the city. Everybody has a role when it comes to mitigating their properties against wildfires, flooding, etc. The second theme of this plan is to promote hazard mitigation, to keep on ongoing. It is a living document, and you hear that many times with a lot of our planning documents. They need to be living documents to remind staff as we move forward how important it is with mitigation planning, as well as assessing on a continual basis what our capabilities or some of those weaknesses that we have when it comes to hazard mitigation, and those resources that maybe we either have that we can deploy towards mitigation, or maybe we need to hunt for when it comes to identified mitigation measures. And the last big part is increased public awareness. Like I just mentioned before, it is definitely a team effort between the city as well as individual private sectors too when it comes to hazard mitigation. And a lot of people see hazard mitigation, they don't know what it is. So a big element of that is what is hazard mitigation and education. So part of this plan is getting out there and educating folks, as well as anybody who constructs within the city of Apache Junction. So some of the example measures that we had in the former plans, and you'll see it in this updated 22 plan, is that public awareness and education. We often do that through our public media work with our PIO office to get news releases out there in the newspapers. If when this resolution is adopted, we'll make sure we have this plan on our website where we could actually have it more readily available for staff, but then also citizens of Apache Junction to review, and then also get comments. As I said, this is a living document, so we like to get that continual feedback from citizens and what ideas they have, thoughts when it comes to addressing the hazards that we have in the community. And a big part of this plan, you'll see a lot of retrofitting, hardening of structures, and you'll see that in a lot of the ordinances, building requirements, regulations that we have, floodplain management that we have. We do have a benefit of the mountains and the views, but with that benefit comes a lot of flash flooding. So we definitely have to watch everything we build and how we deal with that hazard. Also, we are very close to wildfire areas, a lot of open spaces which we cherish, but that does give us that unusually high hazard being wildfire urban interface, a WUI you might hear once in a while. So we definitely have a large interface when it comes to wildfire threats too that we have to make sure we recognize and plan for. Getting down to a lower level here, public stakeholder involvement is important. We did have some public hearings as part of the development of this plan, so we did get some public involvement. We didn't get that many, but we did have some. And as I mentioned, that involvement does include, and we recognize the implementation of these plans when it comes to hazard mitigation is, again, getting that private sector involved, including non-government. A lot of our emergency management groups, teams that we have when it comes to talking about emergency management and our preparation includes, as much as we can, those private sector organizations, for example, like hospitals, for example, would be part of our planning capabilities. Also, part of this plan, we did recognize some areas that we can maybe improve upon, and a big one is continuity of operations planning. COOP planning. That was a big thing during COVID. When people get knocked out being sick, do we have a second person or a third person in our ranks that could step in and continue to fulfill those critical services for the city when needed? So we recognize that is a thing that we could continuously improve upon. We are a small organization, which makes it tough when it comes to getting depth in our bench to do what we do as city government. Emergency response plan. So we do have a lot, that document involves a lot of different plans when it comes to different hazards or threats to the community. So that is another living document that is evolving all the time, continuing to improve upon that and update all the time. Stormwater master plan is also a significant within our community, as I mentioned, with our flooding, flash flooding threats that we do have. And also in this plan too, we do recognize that we have some updates with some ordinances, which floodplain ordinance is one of those that we look to do as part of this term of this plan. Specific infrastructure projects too, hazard mitigation measures specifically are also printed out in this plan. So we do have a significant regional drainage improvement, and I think our city engineer talked about this a couple weeks ago, having to do with Weeks Wash with the flood retardant structure north of Lost Dutchman, so that is part of this plan. Also, we have some more local drainage improvements, mainly on the west side of town, where we got some area, just more local, smaller washes that we have some problems with, that we hope to, again, continue and add on to some of those drainage structures that we continue to work on. Also, backup emergency power systems has been, again, critical infrastructure. Our storm events, so if they don't bring the rain, it seems like they always bring the wind. And that knocks out electricity for us often, so we always seek to have backup emergency power systems for critical facilities, which could be as simple as traffic signals. That may be simple, but traffic signals are a critical facility. Once they go down, there's chaos out there on the streets. So over the last 8 years, we have equipped our signals, and I think we're down to the last 2 signals. We're getting backup power systems, so they should not be going dark during a power outage. Also, for example, this budget year, we do have a generator for a backup power solution for the city hall that's currently underway with starting with design right now. So that's an example of some projects that we currently have going on. And also on the bottom there, water conservation and sustainability. You'll hear a lot about that. What are we doing when it comes to water conservation and being sustainable when it comes to water? So we do have the plan that speaks to that as well. And I think that is it. And I did mention that currently, I think in the staff memo, that plan is available at the Pinal County Emergency Management site. Some of you may have reviewed it. It's a big document, 250 pages, but like I said, it covers multiple cities. So just look for the Apache Junction area in there and you'll get the specific information and a lot more in depth than what I just gave you a simple overview here today. Again, my intent is to get that better embedded into our city website, after tonight if the resolution is adopted. So any questions at this time? I'm happy to.
Anyone got any questions? Any questions down here? Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. Shane, that survey about when we had the flood and that survey that got put out, any idea if anything came back from that? Did many people respond? Do we know? Do we have any data? We don't know.
I haven't heard. I apologize. I think I'm definitely going to be curious too and interested to see what responses we did get on
I would love to know that sometime in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, is that the National Weather Service one? We could definitely find out. Yeah.
And we do keep in touch with the National Weather Service. I know on that July 28th storm, they actually called me that night of, because they do issue those flood warning levels, so they're trying to sense how severe it was to, put the highest warning out there when it comes to floods. So we did have follow-up conversations after that event. So they are a very good partner, and they've been helping us out quite a bit when it comes to refining our notifications with our flood alerts for the community here.
Hopefully, a lot of citizens responded to that, because that'll, give them they can zero in on that and put us on the radar there a little bit more.
But yeah, thank you for that reminder. I'm going to follow up with that.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know when I responded to it, because it took me over 45 minutes to get from my house to here because of the roads being closed and all the flooding that was ongoing. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Your Honor.
Yes.
I move that resolution number 22-37, adopting the 2022 Pinal County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Councilmember Heck?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay, presentation, discussion, and consideration of the Public Arts Commission recommendation of approval of artist Trevor O'Tool, public art concepts for the Dutchman Dog Park. Rudy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rudy Esquivias. I'm the Development Services Director. Very brief tonight, Mr. Mayor. We brought this item to you now for a couple of work sessions. At our last work session, council members looked at the colors, recommended that the artist, Mr. O'Tool, change the colors on the husky and the pup. And you have a couple of slides in your packets which show that color recommendation that you made, and also the bulldog, which is a secondary art piece, is also in the earth green color. And basically, they have done what you asked them to do, and we're asking this evening for your approval, Mr. Mayor. The Public Art Commission did unanimously recommend approval of the art pieces, and staff supports their recommendation. Oh, here we go. Brought it to you for a couple of work sessions, and that is the main art piece, which will be near the entrance to our Dutchman Dog Park, here right across the street. The husky and pup in the light green and teal, and then also the bulldog in the earth green. And this particular image shows the scale of the bulldog relative to your typical 6-foot person. The previous slide, those art pieces will actually be about 6 feet tall, and they will sit on a 4-inch concrete pad. And these are the very first art pieces that our Public Art Commission has recommended, and we hope you will approve these items this evening, Mr. Mayor. That's it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
No.
No? Okay. Do I have a motion?
Oh, can we have a discussion and not a question?
Okay, discussion?
Okay, so last ditch effort, I suppose. So I'm not a fan of the dog lifting his leg, urinating. I don't think it's right for the city. I don't think it's right for the park. On our last work session, I tried to convey that with the obvious. So let me just try one last thing. So as Rudy, you suggested that this is our newest art commission. The art commission is our newest commission. This is their very first project sent to us, very first artwork.
Yes, sir.
To be slated at our city's latest amenity, public amenity. And one of the things that people seem to like about that dog's pose is that it's humorous and it's funny. So do we really want to start that off as a joke? I mean, is that the standard we want to set for our art commission in the city? Do we want to approve something that everybody thinks is a joke? So, last-ditch effort. We can put the dog on all fours, leave nothing to the imagination.
You know, if I may, Your Honor, I think the placement of where I kind of understand and can kind of feel where Robert's coming from. But I think the placement, for me, if this was at a focal point down in the center of town, it might be it's at the dog park where people have their dogs, and a little bit more of a social environment, you know, I don't see a problem with a little bit of humor. I didn't even, you know, until people on the council brought it up, I didn't see it as that until people, and it was like, oh, okay, yeah. It's at a dog park. I would say if it was in the center of town, down at our veterans gazebo or something, it might be considered a little bit, you know, not the best idea, but for me.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Rizzi, the bulldog will not be the main art piece. The husky and the pup will be the main art pieces near the entrance to the dog park, and the bulldog will be kind of off to the side, maybe by a tree or by a rock or something like that, and it'll probably be the second thing you notice if you notice it. So, you know, not the main art piece.
But an art piece nonetheless.
Yes, sir.
That we approve from our art commission.
Yes, sir.
Our first approval of the art commission?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And
Any comments additional over here, from here?
Well, Your Honor, so Rudy just questioned that, I know that how this is gonna sound, but is the dog gonna be placed, the bulldog gonna be placed near like a bush or something?
Probably by a tree, maybe. Yeah.
I know, that's fine.
Natural setting.
You blend in then. I mean, it's happening all across the park.
I just don't see the humor. I'm sorry, I don't see why this should be a joke.
You gotta take your dog down there, man. Come on now. You just-
Okay.
So
These dogs are-
I have a kind of odd sense of humor, which if you know me well, you understand that. But I've done a lot with animals. Bulldogs, I don't know how you can look at one and not laugh, whether his leg's up in the air or not, because they run like they have an issue. They have a couple of issues, they got short legs. But, you know, I don't think it's so in-your-face obvious. It's kind of a subtle little, that's what animals do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it will be, you know, criticized as being, it's not obscene, it's just, I find it quite humorous.
You know, Gail brings up a good point. Gal, something that you just said too, with bulldogs and their personality, they kick dirt behind them all the time. And so
They
we're
have a weird
assuming
little
what he's
walk.
doing. You know, there's an assumption here. He could very well just be kicking the dirt behind him, because they do that. I mean.
I suppose I hold our art commission in our city to a higher standard than some.
Well, you know, I find the choppiness of it a little less, you know, appreciative as far as the style of the art, but he could be doing anything. He could
Be standing on all fours?
Any additional discussion? Okay, do I have a motion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
I move that the Public Art Commission's recommendation of approval of artist Trevor O'Tool's public art concepts for Dutchman Dog Park with the changes requested by the City Council at the City Council work session on October 17th be approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Heck,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi,
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder,
No.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your
Ridiculous.
Honor.
Okay. Presentation and discussion on RFP 23001, computer-aided dispatch. Chief Pulley.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Mike Pooley. I'm the police chief here in Apache Junction. Tonight, we're going to be talking about our CAD system, or computer-aided dispatch, and the RMS, which is the record management system. This is kind of what we would consider behind-the-scenes machine that makes the police department run. So basically, real quick on what a computer-aided dispatch is, it's what our dispatchers use to communicate with our officers. Anything that comes in from the public gets put into the system and gets relayed to our police officers. The records management system is anything that our officers put into a report that gets generated on for investigation and for follow-up, any of those types of things. It is really the backbone of our police department, and it's something that without a good functioning CAD, computer-aided dispatcher, RMS, records management system, the police department can't function at 100%. So why is this? We currently have an outdated or an older system that we've had for about 5 years now. What we're looking at is, as we look at the police department and how to run things a little more efficiently, we're looking at how do we do that. So one of the biggest things for me is having accurate data analytics for our operational deployments. Also, it's being able to upgrade our records management system, being able to store this information and be able to access it easily and pass it on to the city court system as well as county courts. Also, it's a better ability to collect, manage, and report critical statistics for the FBI. Every year we have to report our crime stats to the FBI so they can put it in their database. This is going to help us do that in a lot easier manner as well. It's more effective case management, and the oversight of our investigations and all of our investigations and crimes will be able to be centralized in a lot easier format for us to understand. And the best thing for me is it provides better, overall it'll help us provide a better customer service to the community on when they need assistance and when they need follow-up done from our investigations. So the company that we're coming to you to talk about is Mark 43. I do have Jason Negron, who is with Mark 43 here with me as well tonight, that will be here to answer any questions about the company. And I also have our IT director, Doug Worthkin, who understands the implementation process on all the technical stuff as we get into it. So Mark 43 is a company that's been around for several years. A lot of agencies in California and on the East Coast use them. We currently, here in Arizona, Scottsdale Police Department just went live, I believe, this week with Mark 43 on the records management system. And they're the first department here in Arizona, and we'll be the second department in Arizona to go to Mark 43. It's a cloud-based system, which means it takes all of the actual physical infrastructure that we have to have currently now out of the police department, and it's in a very secure cloud system that we can access from anywhere that we have internet with. So what we're coming to is to show you the price. We went through the procurement process. Kimberly's here also that can help us if there's any questions on that. So what we're looking at is it's a 5-year contract, which is little over $1.5 million. The first year is going to be $490,000, $490,645 for the first year. Every year after that will be $269,000. And that price won't change for 5 years, even as we add staff to the police department as well. This is kind of the timeline. It does take a little over a year to change our old system to our new system, to include training, making all the arrangements. The thing with Mark 43, it will be able to be customized specifically for the Apache Junction Police Department. And we anticipate, if this is approved, to go live February of 2024. So we understand it is going to take at least a little over a year to implement this. You know, there's been a lot of success with Mark 43. We went through the procurement process. We had 3 applicants that put in. After reviewing everything, we believe Mark 43 is the best company for the Apache Junction Police Department. And you and the residents of Apache Junction and visitors, if they need anything from the police department, I'm confident this system is going to help us provide the best customer service possible. And that being said, is there any questions?
Yes.
I just have one. So this was budgeted for in the last budget?
So yes, we are going to be using our American Rescue Plan. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, ARPA money that will be used to pay for this.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else over here? Anyone over here? Yes.
I have 3 questions for you.
Sure.
One you just brought up, the rescue plan. How much is that paying, and how much will we pay?
I believe it'll be paying for the first $493,000 this first year implementation.
So then the other 4 years, $250,000 a year will be the
We'll have
city
a
pay?
budget for that, yes.
Okay. You just said it's going to take about a year to implement it?
Yes.
When do we start paying? When, a year from now,
Initially,
when it's?
Yes, once we sign the contract, we will start
So
paying.
we pay now, even though you won't have the system for another year to use?
Yeah, that part will be broken up, I believe.
Okay. And it's gonna be spread out over 4 years, paying $250,000. Will this system be outdated in 5 years like the current system?
No, this is a system that continues to update itself. One of the good things that we really like about Mark 43 is we don't need somebody to come in and physically touch all of the equipment to upgrade it. It's a cloud-based system, which it does it on its own. It's able to upgrade and update anything, kind of like when you have a Windows update or something on your computer.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Your Honor.
Yes.
And so if I understand correctly, going off of Tessa's questions, it's not that we won't have it or have access to it when we pay for it up front. It's the transition period. It takes
Correct.
that long to get it in, get people trained, transition that first year, so correct?
Yeah, the system will be custom designed to the Apache Junction Police Department. It'll be similar to other agencies that are currently using Mark 43, but we may have modules or something that we want to do a little bit different, even the way it looks. We're going to have staff that are, from communications that are involved in this, our patrol officers, our detectives, records clerks that are going to be involved in customizing what we need to provide the best product for Apache Junction Police Department.
Can you estimate how long from that first down payment, if you will, of the $490,000, how soon that it actually starts to come into the department where you guys are starting your transition?
So
kind of
I
a time.
believe I have this slide
There we
here.
go.
So this will actually give you a better timeline of how it works. And if you want more technical details, I didn't think so. But if we do, I have some experts on that.
But I know that we're gonna get questions from the public about hacking. What is have you heard, is there any situations or issues with that where people are, with these people that hacking in, or does it happen? Is it pretty safe and secure? It sounds like it is.
Yeah, I'll let Doug explain the whole encryption and cloud-based.
Hi, council members and mayor. I'm Doug Worthington, the IT director, and I'm happy to answer your questions. So with these kind of processes and the processes of building up, and you were asking about payments and so forth, Councilmember Nesser, it's really about implementation process. So they go through the current state of your current system and also look at the future state, look at your processes and data migrations, and all those things are accountable. And as you go through the different modules and implementations, that's when the payments come for those first months to add up to those $490,000. As far as security, we looked at Mark 43 from a standpoint during the RFP process, because we put together questions looking at their data security, looking at the different type of cybersecurity that we have now, and also the way that we've designed the network here. More than 60% of our applications are cloud-based. So we designed the network to have redundancy between our ISPs, with Lumen currently, Mediacom, and then also January we will be having Zayo as part of our ISPs. So if something happens, we'll have internet connectivity to get to those cloud-based, and then also Mark 43 has a security program in place to be able to accommodate those things through multi-factor authentication and security things to make it safe and secure with that sensitive data.
So it's not getting hacked into?
Well, you know,
Nothing's
I never say,
impossible,
yeah,
but it's secure.
if you're a target, you're a target.
Yeah.
But you want to take as many steps as you can to prevent that. Any other questions in security?
Yeah, Your Honor?
Yes.
So I guess, Doug, maybe for you, this good question. Have we ever, at least, well, no, you haven't been here a long time. Have we ever been hacked? I mean, has
Not
there
in
ever been an
11 months.
Not in what?
Not in 11 months.
Not in 11 months.
So you'll take all the credit for that?
No. I have rebuilt the entire network based on trying to put security in place. It is a work in progress. And I know the mayor shoots over some news programs of cities that have been hacked. There are many programs. Kronos is our in the cloud solution we have for timekeeping. It was down for several weeks this year because of ransomware. Even Tyler Munis, before we did the implementation here, was hit with the ransomware. what they do with things like that is they learn from that, build from those processes, and make them more secure, more robust, which makes it so secure. Sometimes it's difficult to get into, but you absolutely have to have that security and process. So what we're trying to do is look at this as soon as we expand down to the south as well, where Mike's police officer will be, making sure that we get the data infrastructure to support that, and the security. So we've had companies from Sentinel look at our infrastructure to be able to support these, so we have 100% uptime. That's what we're trying to do. But we are a city. We do have target cybersecurity that will target utilities, different things like that. So we're trying to really focus on those areas to make them more secure and scalable and robust to be able to make sure that they can still get to their data.
Okay. No one else?
Just one other thing I wanted to add is two things, I guess. Just to note a few other agencies that are using this current system is the U.S. Secret Service, the Federal Defense Intelligence Agency, as well as several other large police departments throughout the country. So it is a very safe, secure network that's been used. This, like I said, this was a competitive request for proposals to the public. We had two other companies that put in as well. After review of the questions and things that were submitted, we do believe this is the best option for the Apache Junction Police Department, and this will be going to consent agenda in 2 weeks on the 15th.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Presentation and discussion on the Library Board of Trustees approval amendment of Library Board bylaws. Pam.
Mayor, members of council, Pam Harrison, Library Director. I have a very quick and I hope easy item for you tonight, and that is pertaining to our Library Board of Trustees bylaws. At the October 13th meeting of the Library Board of Trustees, the board approved a small change to Article 2 of our bylaws that concerns our meetings and when they are held. And the sentence in that bylaw reads, quote, "The board shall establish a regular meeting day and time once a month for meetings related to regular business purposes," unquote. On that meeting, the library board voted and approved amending the phrase "once a month" to the words "on an as-needed basis." And we have two reasons for suggesting this change. The first would be to eliminate the need for library administrative staff and for our city clerk's office to have to officially cancel meetings when they're not held on a monthly basis, and thereby that reduces their workload. And secondly, we are always very respectful of our library members' time. We have meetings only when they are needed, and this change will be reflective of practices that we've actually been doing now for many, many years. And that's all I have for you tonight.
Any questions from?
No.
Makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's going to be,
Also consent agenda on November 15th.
okay.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on. Presentation, discussion of case P 22-88PZ, a request for a planned development rezoning of 14 acres tentatively known. Uh-oh, I skipped one. Let me back up. Presentation, discussion of case number P 21-99PZ, proposed planning development major amendment for a property located at 94 West Roundup Street. Kelsey.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Kelsey Shatnick. I'm a planner on staff. And tonight's presentation is a plan development major amendment request of the property at 94 West Roundup Street. Just kind of as a reminder, this item is discussion and presentation only. This item will come back for a public hearing on November 15th. So the property at 94 West Roundup is located near the northwest corner of Idaho and Roundup Street. The property consists of 3 parcels currently zoned high-density multiple-family residential by planned development, And the applicant is requesting a PD amendment to construct 3 two-story fourplexes. In terms of surrounding zoning for the property, to the north, west, and south is all zoned RM2 PD as well, and this is the Apache Junction townhomes, and to the east is zoned RSGR. So here's the proposed site plan and landscape plan for the property, So the applicant intends, so as I stated before, there are 3 parcels currently at this property, and the applicant intends to keep 3 parcels and develop 1 fourplex on each property. Each unit will have a 1-car garage as well as 1 paved parking space. In addition to that, they've provided extra driveway space for an additional personal car or overflow. And as you can see, there's landscaping throughout the community. And along this northern section, we are requesting a minimum of 36-inch box trees to kind of create a little bit more privacy for those neighbors to the north. And then on the westernmost parcel, there is a shared amenity space for the entire community. So here are the proposed elevations for this project. As you can see, the developer is incorporating multiple material types, such as stucco as well as stone accents. And they have chosen desert tone colors in hopes to complement the surrounding community. So here's a side view of that elevation. And I apologize, I don't have a colored elevation of the rear elevation, but this is primarily to point out that they are proposing balconies on the 2nd story. So this would be facing north. In terms of public input, a neighborhood meeting was held on October 28th, 2021. A sign was posted at the site. Notices were sent out to property owners within 300 feet, and the case was advertised in the newspaper. Staff did receive 2 calls regarding this request. One individual wanted clarification on whether or not each unit would be 2-story or if there would be units on bottom and units on top. And then the other individual was opposed to the rezoning or the PD amendment request. They had safety concerns with the project as well as concerns with the 2-story design. In terms of staff analysis and recommendation, staff also had a couple concerns from the beginning with this project. The first was with the 2-story building design. You have 2-story buildings adjacent, like directly to the south of 1-story units. So we had privacy concerns with kind of that height difference. Staff was also concerned with the overall maintenance of the property. So as I stated before, this project is proposed to remain on 3 separate parcels. It is the intent of the developer to construct and then manage the property, but in the future, each parcel could be owned by a separate individual. So staff was concerned that as this project is being developed as essentially one apartment complex, in the future it could be managed by 3 different individuals. So staff was concerned in ensuring that the property as a whole was maintained at that same level. And staff is also concerned about parking. As you can see from the site plan, it is a very narrow site and it's difficult to develop. So they are meeting their minimum parking requirement, but there isn't a lot of space for overflow parking. And if you noticed because of these concerns, if you noticed in the staff report, there are a lot of conditions of approval which are very detailed for a project of this size. So staff worked really closely with the applicant with drafting these conditions of approval to hopefully have a good long-term project overall and have a safety net for the city so that if their long-term maintenance agreement together fails, that we have something to kind of hold our ground on. So this item was held for a public hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission on October 11th, 2022. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended denial of this request in a 5-to-1 vote, and they had concerns with the perpetual maintenance of the property, again with that 2-story design, and believed that a better overall design could be achieved at this site. So in response to that, we have recently received revised elevations for this project. So this is a little bit of a callback. This is the original proposed rear elevation with those balconies on the 2nd story. And the applicant is now proposing to remove those balconies. So putting them next to each other, they have removed the balconies along the 2nd story, and then also reduce the size of these windows and put them at a higher height, hopefully to create a little bit more privacy for those neighbors to the north. They've also provided this elevation to kind of show, in theory, when the trees are planted and then as they grow over time, that they will exceed a certain height, again, creating more privacy for those neighbors to the north. So staff is recommending approval of P2199PZ, subject to those conditions found within the staff report. There's also an update to condition number 5. Basically, it's just adding a little bit more detail to the maintenance of the retention areas. So the original draft said reasonably maintained, and we just added to that and saying the removal of debris and trash to just make that a little bit clear for the applicant now and any potential owners in the future. So again, as a reminder, this will be presented in 2 weeks for public hearing at the November 15th City Council meeting. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm just very happy to see that they were willing to work with taking those balconies out for the sake of everybody else. That's a big thing for them to have changed. And hopefully trees grow really fast.
Yes.
So, in looking at the plat with Roundup in Idaho, so this is going to be dead end, is that correct?
Correct. So it will be dedicated city right-of-way, but it will just end in a cul-de-sac and turn around.
Well, just from the one map, it sort of looks like the cul-de-sac itself stops before the final. I'm just not sure how it enters.
So there will be curb gutter sidewalk kind of right here, and this is the property line of that westernmost parcel.
Yes, but how do they drive to their, it doesn't look like they can drive all the way down to the front of the last set of houses.
And that's not the map, I'm not looking at this one.
Oh.
What is this? Oh.
No.
So just to mention, so right here, it is a rolled curb, and so you will be able to drive over this on
Right.
and access the
Right.
units.
That one. Do we have that one that's in our packet?
I
can pull
So-
up back
Matt's
if-
going to pull that one up.
I have it right here. So basically, so this is showing, so this right here is a federally patented easement that is, hasn't been dedicated to the city yet. So as a part of this process, this is currently 33 feet, and it's going to be reduced down to 17 feet and then dedicated for a full 50 feet of right-of-way. And that will also extend here as well to complete the circle.
Your Honor?
Yes.
Kelsey, have you had a report from the fire district about gaining access? It's a little confusing that at the very end there, if they had to send fire apparatus up to that last building, they'd be driving on a driveway or so. I don't know. Have they weighed in on this thing at this point?
So this project has been routed to the fire district, and they are going to be requesting here, so they need a minimum of 20 feet, and then they are going to be requesting no parking in this area, as well as the, any cars that are parked here can't encroach within that required 20 feet to allow them full access here.
Man, that's a pretty tight squeeze.
So why did they decide not to go all the way to the end with Roundup? Or was that our choice?
So I am unaware of the original, how this came to be dedicated. I believe this might have been part of the Apache Junction Townhome plat
Right.
at some time.
Right.
Why, and because there are also housing units here, so that was probably at that time of development, but I'm not entirely sure.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that this was a really bizarre parcel to begin with that was sort of controversial when.
When it
the-
happened.
Yeah, when it happened.
I was
that
here
it-
when this happened, and I remember
And it-
many
That's all you're saying.
discussions about what this piece was and what it would be like in,
Yeah.
you know, at some point, and here we
What
are.
would anybody do with it? So
Right,
I'm really
right. It's
thankful
interesting,
that they've stepped up to do this. The road thing just kind of confuses me, why it doesn't go all the way to the end of the project. I understand there's the other homes are on the south, but by the red, it just looks like, why didn't it just go down further? Does that make sense? I'm just confused.
I'm a little confused
it.
by how the road and how the people in the last section actually go in and out. Plus, did I hear you say that they have the garage, they have the driveway, and where exactly are they parking the overflow? Is it where?
So these spaces
Along
right
the
here
fence?
are the one-car garages. This is their driveway that could accommodate a car, and then each parcel has 4 additional paved parking spaces. So there's 4 here, 2 here, 2 here.
Somehow,
four here.
would have made more sense to me to have had the 4 spaces down at the end where there's no access.
So I know that they've, kind of configured it, especially because it is 3 lots, to ensure that they meet the minimum requirement on every individual lot.
But they are going to be developed all at the same time, but with the individual parcels, then they could sell off each
Parcel with a
parcel
fourplex.
separately.
Correct.
To have a separate owner, which, I understand that. It's just the road confuses me, but.
Well, it would be a little difficult if they did split it out into 3 parcels, because you have the access, and I know they're trying to work on the wording on that, but you have the amenities all down at one end. So whoever owns the
far end,
park gets
yeah.
a better parcel than the other ones, because now they might not be able to use it.
So we have, as part of one of our conditions of approval, required that they create an access
A shared.
agreement, so that even if these are sold off to 3 individuals, and everyone who lives here will have access to this shared space. So that is a condition of approval.
Okay?
Okay, down here.
Yeah, what is exactly, those last 2 units, what is that, just grass area? What is it exactly in front of the 2?
In front of these 2 units right here?
Yeah, right in there. What,
This will be paved.
it will be
It will
paved?
pavement, yes.
Okay,
So-
even though their garages are over here before you get to them, right?
So this is a garage right here.
Okay, it is.
So they'll be able to drive.
Okay, now my question then is, you said something about that's no parking out here, right?
So in this section right
Right.
here, they need at least 20 feet of no
Okay.
parking.
Now, people down here in these other units, these are gonna be sold, right?
So these will be rentals.
They will be rentals?
Yes.
Okay, but what's to stop when people in the first 2 or the first 4 units have people come visit? They're gonna go down there and park on that pavement, okay? They're gonna do it. So, is it in their CCNRs or anything that there is no parking down there?
So there will be signage posted by the, by the city and fire district. And then they are drafting, maintenance agreements. And we can make sure that that is included there. I know that they are also kind of accounting for the fact that you can park along Roundup Street. So if there is additional overflow parking, that you could utilize this street as well.
Okay, now, the second question I have for you is on that picture when you did away with the balconies with the high windows up here.
Mhm.
Problem was going back 15 years ago when everything around was sold, and the people that this is backing up to don't want these people upstairs looking down. Forget about those trees, because it's going to only take 20 years for those trees to be big enough to do what your picture showed it's going to do. How high are these windows? I mean, are these like bedroom windows that are way up high so people won't, they'd have to be standing up on their bed to look out those windows to look down on the people who live on the other side of the wall, correct?
I believe that's the intent. I do not have the exact height, but I can get that for you for the public hearing.
Okay, please do, thank you.
So to go off of Tessa's question with the balconies being removed, these windows that go down look more like sliding glass doors? Are they waist level windows? Oh, these ones here, okay,
This
they've
is
been,
what's gonna
got it, they've been changed. Okay, that was my question. Is this a result, this is a result of the one guy that held out and wouldn't sell with all the, what a conundrum he created. Wow.
Yeah, it's bringing back all these memories now. as we go through.
Now, the 3 plots, is that from the one owner? Why was it not combined? It's not
He never
combined, you
bought
said
it.
he's keeping it separate.
So for this project, he is, the applicant is keeping it 3 parcels due to financing. So originally because we asked that same question, because typically you have multiple parcels, you combine them for one project, but it is due to financing.
Okay.
I have a question for Joel. Legally, by them not combining this into one, is that going to create any kind of problems down the road with issues such as parking and all, like, well, that's a different parcel and blah, blah, blah?
Well, Mayor and Council, we did look at this. I don't think that's on. And there's some CC&Rs that they provided. And we went through like 2 drafts. I think the draft that I saw, the final one, it included parking, and they're going to manage it. That's what the CC&Rs say. So
They who?
the developer is going to have it so that it'll be managed. I mean, things do come up 20 years from now, who knows, but I think that's all I'm going to say, because we had some interesting discussions. But, I mean, you take a risk, of course, with development, on any development, but based on the CC&Rs I saw, what's in place will handle that issue.
Has the owner pretty much come out and that is his plan, is to sell it?
No.
Because to me, it just seems like if you walk into a project with the idea of making it 3-part, keeping it as 3 parcels because it can be sold, it's probably the actual intent.
So what's been communicated to me is that they do plan on developing it themselves and then continuing to manage it. They have had no intent to develop it and then sell it off. It's just they're keeping it 3 separate parcels due to how they're financing the project.
And that's understandable. But I do, all of the properties along Rosa Street, those are all part of the Second Adams project, right? So those are all rentals as well.
Right.
So with, I've had to tell people that even buy a house, they've sat there for years and all of a sudden a 2-story is built behind them. Well, if you don't own it, it's kind of a gamble. It's a rental to a rental. I really appreciate the fact that he was willing to change the windows because the balconies would have been a really nice asset for the people on the upstairs. But all in all, I think he did a really good job on a really bizarre parcel. And that's, it has been.
It has been, yeah.
Yeah. Probably
Okay,
lucky the kid
anyone
didn't
else?
develop it.
All right, and that's going to be coming up again when?
On November 15th, so in 2
November
weeks.
15th.
That's another big meeting.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you then. Okay, let's take a 5-minute break
Oh,
and come back.
I gotta call Jim and tell him just to eat on his own.
Back to order again.
Yeah. I remember when
And we're going to combine the
Yeah,
next two
just this one little-
presentation discussion of P 22-88 PZ,
said no sale.
planned development of 14 acres, tentatively known as Havenly Scenic, and then presentation discussion of P 22-89 PZ, a request to modify the conditions and approval requirements, improvement dedicated to Colt Road.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson. As with the item before, this item is discussion and presentation only. The public hearing and consideration of these two cases will be held in 2 weeks on November 15th. To explain a little bit about the context and why both of these cases are being heard at once, P 2288 PZ is a proposed plan development rezoning of 14.1 acres, noted in red. Currently, these properties are zoned RSGR as well as RM2. And altogether, a proposed development plan of a 158-unit leased residential community has been proposed. Now, as part of this, about a year ago, actually, it was finalized in December with the vote of the City Council, but the area in blue was approved for a similar rezoning and development plan by the same developer, known as the Havenly Superstition. Because of P 2288 PZ, the Havenly Scenic, the development plan for that includes part of the section of Colt Road that was originally going to be dedicated and improved with sidewalk and surface and pipes and so forth. But because they have now included that in the development plan of this second community, there is no longer any need to improve it. But the conditions of Ordinance 1518, which was the approval of the rezoning of P 2173 PZ, the Havenly Superstition, it required that they would improve Colt. It required that they would dedicate part of Colt to the city to further increase the right-of-way, among other things such as landscaping and so forth. And so, because P 2288 PZ, or the Havenly Scenic, is being proposed, were it to be approved, a lot of those obligations would no longer have any merit or purpose, and so they have requested an amendment to release them to Ordinance 1518, to release them of those obligations. And that is why P 2289 PZ is an accessory case. It's kind of a follow-up to this, as well as to the original rezoning, just in order to remove the obligations concerning Colt Road. Looking at the zoning within the area, again, the area noted in red, which is the Havenly Scenic, is comprised of those two zoning standards. There's the RSGR, acre and a quarter lots, but also RM2, high-density multifamily residential, already existing there. Now in the area, we have the downtown zoning just to the west of the property, as well as a little bit of RSGR. That is the county retention basin / park parcel. And then you have a manufactured home just to the south of them. There is further RM2 high-density multifamily just to the east, as well as acre and a quarter lots that we've been sensitive to before. While to the north of this property, there's kind of an odd commercial corner that will be provided access because the applicant is required to dedicate their section of Winchester Road on the west side of the property. So we have two commercial lots, a small residential lot. All of them are owned by a big developer in town. We don't have any plans regarding that. However, they've been in discussion just to make sure that access to those properties would still be provided, as that has been concerned. While further to the north across Superstition Boulevard, there is the Bureau of Land Management and State Land Trust lands, just to kind of give an overall image of the area. As was noted previously within the Havenly Superstition project, this is proposed within the downtown mixed-use core, which supports higher densities mixed use, as well as a higher density residential in order to provide a good support, a population support for the downtown and the different uses therein. And staff has found this in compliance with the general plan goals, as I'll touch on later. This is a specific site plan to the Havenly Scenic, which is P 2288. As can be noted, there is an entrance on Superstition Boulevard, as well as another entrance on Scenic Street. The residences themselves are primarily composed of standalone units. So they're like tiny, I wouldn't say tiny houses, but they are a bunch of residential homes, so that rather than them being all like stacked apartments or anything like that, each and every single one of these buildings, with the exception of a few duplexes, are their own standalone unit with a yard and so forth. And noted on the right is a site plan that designates which units are two-story units. It was noted with the previous rezoning, the Havenly Superstition, again, just to the east of this property. There was a lot of concern within the neighborhood about there being height, any kind of two-story units. However, it was a determined goal, both set forth by the general plan as we're trying to increase density, and something that staff advocated for was to introduce these two-story units so that we would have this kind of curve upward as we see in elevations as we approach the downtown, just as we see more of that, so that this kind of transition would be there. So these two-story units, they've been primarily positioned along the west side of the property in order to provide this desired increase in height as we approach the downtown core. And that is something that the applicant has cooperated with staff on, just to make sure that this does accommodate the neighborhood very well. We've tried to minimize impacts to the neighborhood, and that is why we have this plan that shows where those two-story units would be located. This is just a increased zoom on the map. As we look at the site plan, there are pocket parks throughout the site. That is one of the key amenity features that the applicant has proposed. There is a clubhouse with a pool, different things like leasing office or fitness center, and a little bit larger than a pocket park, but it is like a tot lot kind of park feature for the community near the north, near Superstition Boulevard. This is a site plan that shows the two developments side by side. Let me zoom in a little bit. So this area bordered in red is the segment of Colt Road that was originally part of the Havenly Superstition that is now being conveyed over to the Havenly Scenic project, which is the subject of the amendment P2289PZ. Because this section in red was originally, and based on the zoning ordinance, required to be dedicated to the city, to be made a street, to have improvements such as landscaping, piping, and so forth, sidewalks, and everything like that. Because that is now part of the Havenly Scenic project, were this to be approved, there is no need to improve that, and that is why this amendment is being utilized in order to remove those obligations. These are some sample elevations. There are even more elevations for the homes that are being proposed within the Havenly Scenic. There's a variety of different architecture types, ranging from modern prairie style architecture to more Spanish contemporary architecture with the use of tile and porcelain tile along the side of the house in some areas, as well as tile on the roof, while the prairie style is more centered on things like wood paneling and stone. As was noted, the Havenly Scenic specifically has reintroduced two-story homes into the development plan. There is a variety in terms of the architecture there, both with Spanish and with the prairie, but there are also carriage units which would have garages underneath and then two-story units on top. And there are a few of those buildings throughout the site.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Could you please explain to us older people here that a carriage unit is a studio apartment? That isn't always clear, and that is something that we desperately need to be more affordable. So thank you.
Thank you. So for clarification on that, just so that everyone in the public understands, so there is, rather than it being a two-story home, the carriage unit on bottom would just be garages, which may actually be rented out to different people. The entire residential component of this building is on the second story, as opposed to it being a two-story home.
Yeah.
So
They're neat, actually, I think.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool. Old style.
as was mentioned previously, there are a variety of amenity features proposed throughout the site, both ranging from pocket parks that are just complementary to the different homes in the area, as well as a major amenity feature. So the applicant has sought to involve a greater scope of residents. It was noted last time that a lot of the neighborhood came out because they wanted to be notified but hadn't yet heard of it. Some of that, the question was raised because per state law as well as city law, there is a standard notification buffer. We're required to notify people within a 300-foot radius around the property lines. The applicant voluntarily chose to notify it the double the distance with a 600-foot buffer, seeking to try and get as much input as we could this time around, especially. As before, they were pretty engaged within public notification and within public cooperation, and they have endeavored to replicate that this time around. A joint neighborhood meeting for both the amendment case as well as the new Havenly Scenic rezoning was held on August 8th, 2022 in the Apache Junction Multi-Generational Center. I was there as well. We only had 2 neighbors attend, as well as some other interested parties, but mostly we really only had 2 neighbors attend who had comments regarding property values, rent rates, parking, water services, and the traffic along Scenic Street. Staff has received only 1 phone call regarding this, which expressed support for the rezoning and the development of these properties, they being another local property owner who would like to see this kind of development come in. So with this, planning staff recommends the approval of P2288PZ, finding that the proposed development helps accomplish the following general plan goals and policies. There is the general plan goal 3.2 of diversifying housing stock and neighborhoods. There is the goals for the downtown general plan area, which specifically outline having this goal of high-density development, infill development, as well as a variety of multifamily housing in the downtown area that this falls under. Planning staff recommends the approval of the amendment P2289PZ, subject to the conditions of approval found in the staff report. And just as a quick clarification, what has been proposed is that the ordinance and resolution that will be considered in just a couple of weeks will essentially just replace Ordinance 1518, but with the modified conditions, namely condition 1, 2, 3, and 5, which all just had specific language detailing the existing Colt Road and the different improvements that were originally required. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed and voted on both of these cases. They voted 5-1 to recommend the approval of the cases, subject to the conditions of approval found within the staff report. They reviewed the findings of fact and found that the project was in compliance with it and voted thusly. So if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer. Again, the City Council public hearing, which would allow the public to speak as well as the developer to come and give a presentation, will be Tuesday, November 15th, 2022, in 2 weeks.
Start over here in this.
Your Honor. Nick, I noticed in the site photo or the site draw or the site screen, and then I drove over there on Colt Road, there are 3 occupied manufactured homes there. I'm assuming that the developer has agreements with those folks to sell their properties?
Yes, those properties, I believe, are under escrow. I know that they've been in agreement with them, and it is a standard requirement of any rezoning that a property owner has to authorize a rezoning and this kind of procedure to happen when it involves their property. As I understand, those properties have been in agreement. Were this to be approved, that they would then finalize the purchase.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm just always curious what the one dissenting vote, did they give the reason?
We did not receive a vote, or sorry, we did not receive an explanation for the dissenting opinion.
Okay.
However, as I understand, some of it was generally the context of the area, but we did not receive any further elaboration.
Okay. I'd just like to ask, because maybe they picked up on something that we didn't. So thank you for answering that.
Yes.
So if memory serves me, and if I've got the wrong property, forgive me. But if I remember correctly, the one that is getting built right now, that was set up to where they also had the 2 stories in the middle, and then they said, okay, we're not going to do 2 stories because that raised some concerns.
That's right.
And then also one of the things they did, they integrated horse trails around this property. So now this is being, to me, this is being combined with it. It's becoming one big situation, right? It's maybe 2 separate situations, but they're just kind of flowing together.
So there is a bit of porousness between the properties. There is, as in like, there are trails connecting the two. However, the applicant has made clear that this is its own project in terms of financing and in terms of how it is. So by that, I mean, for instance, there was a discussion regarding actually integrating them and opening up the site, putting roads through. However, they do want them to be two standalone projects. But there is a degree of porousness between them. There is a trail that is implemented along the south side of the property, south and east side, because it was required that they do connect to the trails that were required within the Havenly superstition, the rezoning heard last year. So there is trail connectivity between the two, but they are two standalone projects as well.
Are they considering continuing this trail around the outskirts like they're for the original one?
This question did come up during the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing regarding on the north side of the property. I believe there are, unfortunately, limitations within the ADOT right-of-way along the north side. They don't have a whole lot of street frontage on Superstition Boulevard. They were asked that question specifically because there is a horse trail that was continuing. So, aside from the south trail that I mentioned before, the applicant previously agreed and implemented in their development plan these horse trails. Councilman Schroeder just mentioned. So along the east side of the property as well as the north side of the property, a horse trail was implemented into the plan. Now, it was noted and it was asked, would that be continued along the north side? And right about where Colt Road is where the ADOT right-of-way for the roundabout as well as Highway 88 begins, or their access control, and it has been indicated to us that what the developer can do with this spot right here is somewhat limited.
So what about the west, and then coming down west, and then going south, and then?
That's a park.
Just a park.
So it is not, we have not received the official street sections of that. The exact trail, in as much as it is broken by these properties, has not been proposed to be continued in the same way. There will be they will improve Scenic Street, but the plans have not indicated that it would be the same horse path that they did propose along the east and north side of the Havenly superstition.
So essentially, this is the same rendering they gave for the original before the changes with the single story and the horse trails and stuff, but now they're just doing the same difference just over to the west of it with the little forestry buffer between the two.
If I understand what you mean correctly, so
what I mean is, so this is virtually what it was before, and then when Planning and Zoning got a hold of it, they're like, okay, the 2 stories, or hey, we want to integrate horse trails, and the developer agreed and came up with a great-looking plan. So this is, to me, essentially the original look of what they looked at before, but without the changes of between the 2-story and the horse trail.
somewhat similar, yes. So because they have not proposed a different trail system along Scenic Street, so it is being developed as a normal street, if that is what the question is.
Okay.
And it was regarding the 2-story homes, that was part of the development proposal that staff advocated for. It was a part of our original recommendation of approval, even within Keystone, within the Havenly superstition, in order to provide this kind of density downtown, as well as building this downtown image. That is something that staff advocated for then and now, and that is part of the reason why, while there had been discussion with the neighbors regarding the 2-story versus 1-story homes, the applicant has complied, in this case it being a city goal, trying to comply with the general plan in this case. That is why they have reintroduced it here. As opposed to it being a step backwards, staff believes that this is a step forward by having the 2-story homes here.
Okay.
Anyone else down here?
No, I just wanted to say that I've seen this type of a project in many other areas, and it's so nice because they're lease properties, but they look like single-family homes, and it takes us out of that apartment look of just multiple units, and it makes it nicer for people to want to live here. So I think it's a really nice project.
Well, I'm going to ask a question, just kind of like what we had before. Where you go in where you're showing the two-story buildings, can you show that?
You would like me to go to the elevation for that?
Yes.
Do you mean the site plan for it or
Yeah.
the elevations? Okay.
That one.
Right here.
Yep, the other one, okay. These all the way over here on the right side. All the homes that are close by on the other side that are going in are single-story.
Yes.
Are we going to have a series of complaints about someone looking in my back window? We just went through this on this other one, and we've seen it so many times before when you've had two stories that are backing up against a single story about the complaints. And of course, there's no one living over there right now to object to it, but what about into the future?
I will note that there is a buffer between the two projects that exists, as was originally required, that there be landscaping separating the two projects. That is doubled in as much as there are two projects now backing each other, so, but that could perceivably be something that would be run into down the road.
One of the things I might bring up, Mayor and Council, so I live in a house that's a single story next to two stories. Neighborhood is integrated with 2 stories and 1 stories all through it. It's not uncommon. Here's the trick for staff is that this is, when I talk about the purple area is the area that you have designated and the community is designated as starting the process of starting to designate for the integration of some density. And so when we went away from the 2 stories, we actually went away from what we were being asked to do on the first project. And so I think the idea as you get closer towards the downtown and closer towards the Grand Hotel is the property owners and the developers are only looking for more density, meaning 2 and 3 stories. And so I think the thought was from a strategic standpoint over 20, 30-year process, it's going to take some time to get these to develop is 1 story, then a few 2 stories, then 2 stories as you get closer in towards where Fry's is at, and as you get closer to the downtown. In order to create the densities, the amount of people and the commercial hopes and dreams that many have articulated for many years for commercial, you're just going to have a certain amount of people within a certain amount of area that make a certain amount of money. Yeah. Otherwise, the commercial folks, they come to us and they'll go to our economic development and they'll say, well, Mr. Powell, we can't put a Red Robin here. We ask, we need a Red Robin, or we need Applebee's, or we need a Chili's. Well, what do we need? Well, you need 50,000 people within 3, they don't, it's all about geographic, it's all about metrics, and it's all about data within a certain period of a circle because it's market area. It's actually really interesting to see the capitalistic form work in the market zone. That's all this is. So that's what we've been asked to do, and that if you want to get to where you want to get, what I always call the Gilbert world of a 30-year downtown, the former mayor that used to say the 30-year, what does it say? I'm missing the overnight success of a 30-year plan that took 30 years to do, that happened overnight is how he said it. And so that's all I'm saying. You are where they were 30 years ago, and this is the planning that goes on to help that. And that's why staff is saying, hey, in this new, I call it, I don't know if it's called Keystone 2, but that's how it is kind of integrated, Robert, and council member, that you're starting to see staff kind of support or really support the idea of getting some 2 stories going. Otherwise, you're gonna see your next project come. And remember, the Apache Junction is starting to become more of an interest in terms of these types of products.
Yeah. And so these are part of the general plan, am I?
That's right.
I mean,
this is consistent. If we actually proposed as a staff, it puts us in a tough spot from a staff perspective. If we proposed 1 stories, we'd actually be going against what the community told us to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Your Honor, to further address your question, this is the kind of thing that would also be addressed and disclosed within the lease agreement. We would encourage that the developer would have this. It is thankfully something that the developer is on both sides of this property, and they would be responsible for the community management of both properties. So in this case, with the people in the 1-story homes and the Havenly Superstition, we would encourage the developer to disclose that the people who are looking at renting, and they'd be provided different options when they're looking at which home to lease. But to those who would be leasing adjacent to these two-story homes, that it would be disclosed within their rent agreement, that is what would be going in. And that way, no one would be blindsided by having a two-story home built adjacent to them.
As long as we're going to address it. That's why I brought it up. Okay, thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes.
One more question. So, Nick, I recall on the Havenly Superstition development, when P&Z was first going through that, I had my concerns about the entrance into the community from Superstition Boulevard. And I know a traffic study was done, and it was determined to be okay, which is fine. Now we have the Havenly Scenic, which is even closer to the roundabout. And I read in the narrative that ADOT is not allowing their right-of-way to be modified. So for a deceleration lane, was ADOT approached about allowing them to create a deceleration lane? And if so, and they were turned down, is there a concern that the entrance into this community is exceedingly close to that roundabout? And those cars, I mean, I watch those cars come off that roundabout when they're heading down Superstition. They're moving pretty steadily. So can you help me understand that?
Yes. ADOT was approached. We actually had both on the planning side, the applicant side, as well as the city public works. We all have had extensive conversations with ADOT in order to make this project work. Originally, there was a slightly different entrance onto Superstition Boulevard, which ADOT said, hey, we won't allow it in this way. The currently proposed entrance is something that they said, well, we can deal with that. ADOT has been particular about what has happened within what they call their facilities or within their access control area. And so they did indicate that they would not allow modifications to the roundabout, as that's something that ADOT themselves have control over. So it wouldn't be the applicant or even the city public works who would go in and pave a different part of the road. ADOT has said within their domain, like that is what they're responsible for and what they will handle, and they indicated that they want to maintain it as it is. Now regarding how that all interacts, within the traffic studies that we have received, they've indicated that at the level of at the growth that has been proposed, that the level of service will still be maintained as what the traffic engineers consider good. Now, I'm not a traffic engineer, and I believe that the applicant has one who is ready to answer questions, though they cannot answer that tonight. So I would defer that to them next week or in 2 weeks. However, they have indicated that the level of services will be maintained and what they consider to be a good criteria.
So a traffic study was completed for Havenly Scenic, not the Havenly Superstition.
So they are in process, and we plan to get that. We received an updated traffic analysis as of July of this year, and that is where a lot of the data stems from, and they conducted that in cooperation with ADOT. However, as I understand, updated data specific to the Havenly Scenic is underway, and they've been speaking to that as they did in their Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. However, I do not at this time have that packet to provide you.
I would just be curious that the council be able to hear or have the representative there to comment.
Yes, and I believe that they are planning on that, as they've had their traffic engineer there so far at every meeting that they've been able to speak at.
Thank you.
You're getting beat up pretty good here, Nick, but you're holding your own. Good job.
I'm happy to be here.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Nick. Presentation, discussion on the Fourth Amendment to the landscape maintenance service contract with Brightview Landscape Services. Liz.
Good evening, Mayor Wilson, members of council. Liz Lingenbach, Parks and Recreation Director. For this item, Parks and Recreation Department has administered the landscape maintenance contract for the city for many years. These are the areas in the landscaped right-of-ways neighborhood developments, freeway off-ramps, and other areas that are not considered parks or city facilities. So we contract that part out for the landscaping. The original award of bid was done in June 5th of 2018, and since that time, they have had one increase in their contract. In 2019, that was a result of the Prop 206 amendment, when minimum wage and all of those things were increased. And then in 2020 and 2021, we had no increases, but we did renew each of those years. So that's what those amendments were about. We have been discussing with their staff, and city staff is very satisfied with the work done by Brightview. And we feel that their proposal of a 5% rate increase, it's the first that we've had in three years, is very fair, especially with the nature of the market right now. And as we have pursued and looked into other alternatives of either going back out again, looking at the cost of doing that business in multiple ways, as well as some of the state contracts that are out there, we feel that 5% is very, very fair, and we were actually very pleased with it. We had proposed in our budget for this year that if we went out for bid, there was an opportunity, or there was a chance that it could be about a 20% increase. So again, we were very happy to hear that it was only 5%. This item, so in your packet, you have a very short amendment that just changes that price. It allows for the 5% increase, and additionally, it allows for the renewal of the agreement for the next year. They do the landscape maintenance for all of these set base areas, and in addition, when there are other emergency projects or other projects throughout the city that either we don't have the equipment for or staffing for, they've won the bid to be able to do those extra projects throughout the city. And so we will be asking for a contract not to exceed $225,000 for the whole year. That takes care of public works as well as parks, landscape projects that are out there. This item will be presented, well, we're discussing it tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions or bring up any of the contracts for you. And then we'll be bringing it back the week of the November 14th meetings for final decision.
Anything down here?
I think we should feel fortunate with just a 5% increase.
Right.
For sure.
Anyone over here?
Okay,
Now,
thank you.
Is this something that could be on consent?
Yeah, so based on tonight, we kind of didn't list where it would be, really based on what your guys' discussion was tonight. So it definitely could end up being on consent.
Okay. So stay there. Presentation, discussion of city council direction to staff on options pursue in the design of parks and recreation administration add on to the multi-generation center. Liz.
Yes, so good evening again tonight. So on this item, we're here just to give an update on moving our admin offices out of the very old buildings that we are currently in. Our admin offices, as well as all of the recreation program storage, to an addition that will be added on to the multi-generational center. We are here tonight requesting direction at our conceptual design phase is where we're at right now. We have with us our project management team, Sue Billings and Matt Greer. They're with Elevated Design Studios. And they are here to answer anything technical that maybe as you are going through questions, if I can't answer it, they'll be able to help us and jump in for that. So first off, schedule. Right now we are in the conceptual design and the initial construction estimates phase. We have just completed that portion of the project. Tonight we'll be seeking direction to proceed with the next phase of final design as well as the true construction documents that we'll be using to build our facility. We have several construction long lead items that will be ordered once our contract with CORE is finalized. We are working right now very closely with CORE, who designed or who constructed the original multi-generational center. So CORE, as well as our architect, HDA / they're also called doing business as Cole. They have been working with us right now through this design process to gain some of those efficiencies, make sure that we're designing it and able to really be giving us good estimates in the moment and trying really hard to kind of keep that project going. We estimate final completion to be next winter is when we would hopefully be moving in at some point next year around this time. So just wanted to kind of share with you where we're at right now. So if you think about, this is the gymnasium on the north side of the Multi-Generational Center. Over here is the parking lot that looks out over the park as well as the library in this direction. Individuals would come in through a very small lobby, and then our 7 staff that we currently have in the 2 old buildings would be moving over into these offices, as well as there's room for one more. We still have a park superintendent vacancy, so we have really worked hard with our team to look at other ways to be flexible. So as we're growing in the future, there are some opportunities to kind of flex some of this space so that if we needed to gain another office, we needed to do some sharing, we could do that. These are it's a very minimalistic approach. It's Parks and Recreation. It's not, we like to call it utilitarian. So, it's not all the bells and whistles. It's not super fancy, but it is very, very functional for us, as well as I said, very flexible. So as we change or grow, we can move in this space. Let's see here. Our construction budget, so we worked with the contractor core and the architect, which is HDA Cole, to establish the construction estimates that we've received. We're estimating a little over $2.2 million for construction. So that's just the construction part of that, with that funding spreading over 2 fiscal years. So we have put a portion of that into this fiscal year, hoping that we're going to be able to get started here soon. And then the remainder of that, this project, because it will cross over 2 fiscal years, it will be budgeted, and it is currently budgeted in this year, and then our hopes will be that we will continue that through next year. In this estimation right now, it includes a contingency due to the changing market needs. So we have included various things that we'll be able to give ourselves a little bit of a buffer as we are looking at costs right now and where those are going to be as we start ordering some of those supplies here in the near future. This also includes, one of the things that we were very disappointed, I'll say, to learn, or surprised, was that there were some site issues. So again, doing an addition, we have a lot of opportunities for savings versus going and building a whole new facility or a standalone site. Unfortunately, some of our site things do cause us some issues here on our location. So for example, the sewer line is on the south side of the Multi-Generational Center, that connection, so that means cutting across some of that driveway access. We are exploring other options, so again, this is sort of in this moment, this is what it's looking like. Additionally, we do have to manage the stormwater that comes into that area. There is an existing retention basin, and through some of our site, all of our initial findings, there are some, we might be needing to add dry wells. We are very fortunate to be able to look at this as a way to address some of our issues with stormwater that we've been experiencing here at City Hall. So many of our offices during a really heavy flood have experienced water getting, flooding into office spaces. So this is another good opportunity to be able to redirect that over to that area and have an adequate amount of stormwater retention. What's not included, and part of the reason why we're here today, is because we are in this design phase, and as we had been exploring the idea of adding on to this location, we've always been talking about that this view at our Multi-Generational Center, the view at our walking track and in the upstairs is really important. It's prime capital for all of our members, our citizens that enjoy this facility, to be able to look out over here. So then as we talked about adding on to it, we didn't want to take away from that. And so we've explored a lot of different opportunities here. We are maximizing this footprint here. I think when we originally started talking about this, we were looking at maybe ending somewhere in this vicinity. But as we started to take the square footage that we have in our existing buildings, our storage and our staff needs, we did maximize this footprint here to be able to fit everything. And that meant that this area got moved out a little bit. While it does not completely hinder our views in any way, one of the opportunities that our fitness staff and our Multi-Gen Center facilities manager really identified early on was that it would be awesome if we had a fitness deck out here. So yoga, fitness classes, additionally an area for doing rentals and having weddings and things like that. So As I've noted here, it is an opportunity for us to maximize that space. It is, in addition to the construction we've just shared previously, it is about an additional $300,000. Oftentimes, when we come to you with a park project or something, we give some add alternates at the time of asking for that contract to be adopted. Unfortunately, we can't do that this time because design really relies on whether we're going to be having a deck on there or not. We can't do well, we could, it would be a waste of money to do two designs where we're designing two different roof structures, two completely different structure systems. And so we're here really tonight to have a discussion about this, to see your thoughts, and hopefully get some direction on where we should go. So this is renderings that CORE has put together. That outside version was, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go back here real quickly because I wanted to mention. So the gymnasium is over in this area. This is a drive. We would have storage, large doors for loading in and out all of our storage system. And then this is where folks would enter into our lobby and be greeted. This is the deck area, and these are all those offices that you saw on that side. So upstairs, they did some renderings for us. They came out and took some photos and then showed us what it would look like if there was a deck. So Jamie Sullivan, I think she's still in the back of the room, but she's been very concerned about, having that foam white roof, if that's what they're looking at. Certainly, we can tell that it's not hindering our views of the mountains, but to come here and walk and to have just a regular roof is obviously not super desirable. The deck definitely improves the aesthetics of the roof and the view. But in addition, as I mentioned before, it's just a wonderful opportunity for additional fitness programming, potential wedding and other meeting rentals that we can do there. So in addition to having something that we really need to be able to move staff into, this gives us an opportunity at the same time to capitalize and offer something to our citizens in our community. Tonight, we're just here for direction to staff. Our staff is recommending that we include the deck in the final design to capitalize on this opportunity. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime chance. You can't really come back and do that later. We would like to kind of keep moving forward, and so I'm here to answer any questions you have, and tonight to actually get direction if we should be moving in this direction.
Yes.
I got a question.
Yes.
So there's access, this is a fitness deck, correct? There's access to this deck from?
Yes, so they would be having access from the walking track to be able to get onto the deck.
And this is above your offices?
Yes, correct.
So if someone decides you jumping jacks up there, you're going to be working?
So we are Parks and Recreation, and so let me just say, I shouldn't say nobody wants us over here. I'm sure some do. We're very loud, and as it is. But that is where some of this design comes in. So right now, the fitness area is above our kids club. There's a lot of acoustic things that go into all of that. So for sure, there would be some of that into this too. And so kind of imagine it as if in your home, and while there will be certainly multiple people, that is what part of this design is. And again, if you want more specifics, perhaps Sue or Matt could come and share.
I'm just curious, you're
Yeah.
okay with activity up on the roof while you're downstairs working?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're pretty active in our world.
Not the finance department.
Yes.
Well, I'd like to say that, 300,000 sounds like a lot of money, but in the change of the construction needed to make it a walkable deck, I think it's a great opportunity for added space at really a small additional cost. You had said that this had all been budgeted into the original plan. Did that include blowing up the old stuff, or are they going to take away the old stuff in that amount?
So this is just the construction amount for the building. We budgeted for what we thought we were going to be able to do for sure this year. And I will say it is more expensive than what we originally started talking about a year and a half, 2 years ago when we established our budget. Until we get to this phase was when we would learn the true amount. And so our finance director did put into this fiscal year's budget an amount that we felt really comfortable with until we could kind of find out what is going to be the true cost, which is what we're learning, at this point as we move forward.
we're not going to leave those buildings up.
Yes. And so while that is not included, it is important to note that is not included in the 2.2. It is included in the overall project.
It will cost us more to try to maintain that.
Oh,
It's time. Those are, we need to, yeah, so it's in your long-term plan, and it won't be in the 2.2, but we're gonna budget for it and have time to do that.
I just have a feeling that if you don't take advantage of this option right now, 2 years down the road, you're gonna say, why didn't we put that extra space up there? And then it would cost us 3 times as much because of new engineering.
Yeah.
Your Honor, Liz, I love the idea of doing this because I think if you look out on that roof, it will take away from that view because you're gonna see an ugly roof. Just one question, in the dead of summer, you're up on a rooftop. Would there be some plan to try and accommodate that? I mean, I don't know, misting systems or something that otherwise people will just bake up there.
So we would definitely be doing our programming kind of around the hottest time. So our evenings, we still have classes outside on the back patio. The evenings will still be will be easier to be able to accommodate fitness classes. The early mornings are definitely going to be easier. So that little time frame of probably that 3 months where it's the hottest will be challenging, and it probably won't be used as much, just like any of our park amenities in the middle of the day. But I think more than makes up for it in the evening as well as in the morning time frame. And then throughout, we have really good weather. Even in the winter, we have classes that are outside, and so I think there'll be a lot of opportunities out there. So I think those are all things we can think about, though. Are there ways to make it cooler? Are there ways to make it hotter during the winter? Those are definitely good things for us to be having in mind.
Liz, don't they call it hot yoga?
There is hot yoga.
Perfect.
I think that's an excellent. We have too dry of a heat for hot yoga, but
Yes.
Liz, you could consider putting some kind of posts or pillars there with those sail, canvas sail thingies over top of this.
Yeah.
Connected to the building.
I will add that
I mean,
as part of your direction, that we have
500,000.
some thoughts of that. We could at least start, that might be able to be an alternate.
But yeah, I think now's the time to do it and go for it.
Yeah, to me, it's just a win-win. You're taking something that would be ugly and turning it into something you can utilize the space. It's gonna look great. Can you imagine going out to see the view? I mean,
Right,
that's-
yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the idea of being able to, attract, in a sense, the weddings in it, and that's one of the things that would definitely be there, because it would be an opportunity.
For sure.
Okay, anyone else have a discussion on this? Okay,
This direction.
Okay.
so can we have a motion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding options in the design of the Parks and Recreation Administrative add-on to the Multi-Generation Center, additional $300, $300,000
$300,
plus or
yeah.
minus, to move forward.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call?
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Heck?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay. We got several directions to staff for the commissions, and I'm going to turn it over to Tess to start it out.
Okay. Items 19, 20, and 21. We need to just, because I didn't think about it 2 weeks ago when I suggested this, just continue them over the next 1, 2, 3 months. So I'll leave it up to you to schedule those 3 items. And the only thing we need to discuss tonight is item number 22.
So we have to have a motion to put everything off on those
I know what to
3?
Yeah, do a motion.
Okay, can I have a motion to put out, or to put off the 3?
Yeah. Can I do them all at once, or do you need them all 3 separately?
It's up to you.
Huh?
All at once.
All at once? Items 19, 20, and 21. I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding the number of, well, they're separate. How do you want to? I'm just going to say, I move that the following direction be given to staff regarding items 19, 20, and 21, to put them on future calendars.
Over the next 4 months?
Over the next 3-4 months. I'll leave it totally up to your discretion. That's my motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Heck?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, direction to staff and commission members related to Apache Junction City Code, Volume 1, Section 7-1-5, Construction Board of Appeals. Tess.
Your Honor, that was one of my items, and what I would like to, what my issue was that we need to turn this over to the city and the city manager's office to contact local developers to convince their contractors, because these positions that we never can fill are contractor positions. What are they? We have a
General contractor.
general contractor, and the other one is...
Non-general contractor. There's
So-
designated positions that we usually don't get filled.
Right, so what we need to do is turn it over to the city manager's office to contact local developers to get them to step forward to fill these positions for us. So that's what that's about.
Got it.
Any discussion?
No.
Nope, thanks, terrific.
You want a
Is there a
motion on
second?
that?
That
Yes.
was the motion. Do I
That
have a
was the motion.
second?
Second.
Thank
Okay,
you.
moved and seconded.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Heck?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, selection of meeting dates and times. Do I have a motion for the next meeting dates?
Your Honor, I
Yes.
move that an executive session at 6 PM for Monday, November 14th and Tuesday, November 15th, 2022
No.
be held in the City
Hold my
Council Conference Room located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard in Apache Junction, Arizona, and other meetings scheduled if necessary.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Heck?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, call to the public. I'd like to remind everyone that the call to the public is a courtesy and not required by law. It's time for the public to express requests, communication, comments, and suggestions. Requests to speak forms must have been completed and handled to the city clerk before the end of the city manager's report. All issues shall be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks. Underneath the open meeting law, the council cannot engage in discussion on items presented, but may respond to criticism and may direct staff to follow up with the speaker directly or place the matter on a future agenda for council discussion. There's a 3-minute limit for each speaker. All right, I have several here. And Mr. Schroeder.
I'm okay, thanks for asking. George Schroeder, 2444 West Virginia Street. I had too much of a gait. I couldn't step on a measuring tape. That would put her out of business. Anyway, maybe we need to put a pee pad under the dog's leg. You know, little guys, they gotta learn from something. Okay. Anyway, Thursday again, for the umpteenth time, I had a conversation with Mr. Martinez, Code Enforcement Supervisor, regarding a bus on Choya. Several months was there. Talk about it, say we do something. Chip Sykes say we do something, didn't do nothing. Bus with no windows, graffiti wrote on it. 5 months. Finally, yesterday, he emailed me, said he wrote the PDO letter. Today, Mr. Parker and Mr. Waters went out and finally had the bus moved. So the contention that I'm wrong about this, or I don't know what I'm talking about, and lingering problems within this department, I'm not the antagonizer here. So I got called back. And you never get called back when you make a complaint. Not normally. But this person absolutely called me back. And I tried to end the call 3 times. She kept going. She was trying to elicit a response. I gave it to her. It wasn't vulgar language, there was no threats, nothing. Now we're back in the same type of scenario that we had 3 years ago, where lies and innuendos continue with the same person. I would encourage the city to talk to the department head and our city attorney and managers and have them drop this action. It's fruitless, useless, and they will lose. Have a good day.
Okay, Andre Meek.
Andre Meek, 1327 South Bel Air Road here in AJ. Mayor, council, I'd like to speak about the homeless. Much of the homeless problem today is lack of affordable housing. Apartment costs are at the point of unaffordability. In an adult, two-child family, it requires $22.59 per hour per adult full-time to afford to live in Maricopa and also here in AJ. Many of the disadvantaged come nowhere close to making that much, and some have had rents increase tripled this year, some as quickly as 1 month. Those people end up in the street, then code enforcement becomes their nemesis, as well as irate neighbors in areas they are forced to camp out at. Some of the homeless pose real problems due to drug use or crimes committed. They fill empty areas with derelict vehicles and mountains of garbage. At times, a blind eye is turned towards them by city, state, and federal enforcement, each agency passing the buck depending where the offense is taking place. What's secure? Obviously, nothing we are doing now. How about this? Under very limited circumstances, a permit is issued to allow one RV to be occupied in city limits on a residential parcel for a period of 90 days, so someone that has been evicted has a place that's safe to stay and find a permanent place to live. Thank you. Oh, and the dog, make him a fountain.
Okay.
I rest my case.
Okay, Kathleen Meek.
My name's Catherine Meek. I'm at 1327 South Bel Air Road. And in light of Native American Heritage Month and being a volunteer up at the Superstition Mountain Lost Dutchman Museum, I'd like to take this opportunity to invite everybody to come out and visit the property during this month, because currently we are erecting an Apache village. We have Ken Duncan, who with his family is building a couple of wiki-ups and a ramada in traditional Apache methods. And it's very interesting to watch. It's exciting. And the project was made possible through a grant from Arizona Humanities. So it's a wonderful thing that's being done up there. Our hours are Tuesday through Sunday, 9 to 4. It's free to walk the property. The only admission is to go through the museum, which a lot of people don't bother to do because there's so much exciting stuff outside. One of the wiki-ups is almost complete, the other one's following closely. If you haven't heard of Ken Duncan, he is the director of the internationally known Yellowbird Dancers, and he's also a member of the San Carlos Apache tribe. So it's a really exciting thing going on right now to just see a bit of history, living history. And it's exciting, I guess. As a volunteer, I'm just stuck on how fun it is to go up there and see what's going on. And if you catch it at the right time, you'll see Ken. You'll be able to talk to him. He'll explain what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Stock? Okay. Frank Stock?
Hi, my name is Frank Stock. I'm at 1189 North Apache Drive. I'm the unit just to the west of the Roundup Street project. I just wanted to make a quick comment on that particular project. I know that there are a lot of difficulties and challenges with that project. One of the things you may or may not be aware of, Apache Junction Townhomes does have a rather unique opportunity in the thing they've offered there, which is a rent-to-own type model. And so it is that's resulted in people who, there was a comment made about if you're renting, what do you expect behind? But most of the residents in Apache Junction Townhomes do have an ownership mentality. They have invested time and energy there because they do plan to be long-term residents in that area. And I think that the fact that that project is really a little unusual, being essentially plopped in the middle of the Apache Junction Townhomes neighborhood, deserves a little special consideration. And so I'd encourage you to think about that a little bit in the move forward. I realize there are many competing needs, but your attention would be appreciated there. Thank you.
John Reed? Okay.
You waited a long time to speak.
Yeah, I know. Amy Gibson Wash? Gilton, sorry.
I'm at 1165 North Papago Drive, so I'm in the Apache Junction Townhomes as well. And I live just south of the street where one of you had made the statement, you know, how far does the cement end? As it curves and it goes into that roundabout there, I'm right on the other side of the wall there. My concern is, well, I have several concerns, but in that particular area, they were talking about the overflow parking. Well, if the overflow parking is right along that wall, the other side of that wall is our home. So we, in Apache Junction Townhomes, to 88 units, only have 8 overflow parking for the entire complex. So they're talking about their overflow parking being along our entire wall. We then have tons of traffic, tons of noise to parents and different things. And are people going to be jumping that wall? You know, there's going to be, you know, there's a lot of different things to consider. Also, at the end of where that roundabout curves down and where Frank was talking about where he lives, there are several elderly that live there where they're talking about having their barbecue grills and the different things that they have for their play and their children. Are people going to be throwing things over the wall there? Do you know what I mean? That's a lot of elderly that live right in there that are going to be owning their homes. Then you go to the north side of the property where they took the, you know, the little, what are they called? Change the window size and whatnot, about looking into the property. That still could be an inconvenience, like you were stating. The trees, they're going to take a very long time to grow. They're talking about starting these properties not too far back from these properties, right? And those walls on that side of our property, when you're on inside that property that they're going to be building on, those walls are only 4.5 feet. They are not 6 or 7 feet. Where Quail Run on the other side, they've built their walls up to 8 feet to where we don't see each other. Do you know what I mean? And they're further away. My other concern would also be that and I don't know if you guys are allowed to address this or whatever, but dust and vermin control before they build. And I also think that they really need to look into a possibility of doing 1-story similar to our villas over on TP, because they were able to line it up to where it was doable. So that's just kind of some thoughts, and I'll address more on the 15th, but thank you for your time and consideration.
Golden. Yes. Is that Romanson?
I'm Goldine Knudsen. I live at 45 West Rosa Street. I'm the first home off of Idaho going into the Apache Junction townhomes, and I was one of the first ones that moved in, and I am on the lease to own program through the Section 42 IRS tax credit that there's most of us in there are on that are going to buy our homes. And we only have 5 years left. And I do know about why that is there in that little area. The man that was grandfathered in got sick and moved out of state, and I was told that each one of those 3 separate lots, there was going to be 1 home or on each of those 3 lots, and somehow that didn't go through. And then this comes along. So I just want to read to you what I said at the planning and zoning. Does this development fit in with what the vision is of the new Apache Junction City downtown area long-term? It's inconsistent, inappropriate to introduce on only 3 lots, 2-story apartment buildings that are 4-plexus housing with 3 to 4 bedrooms each. Could be over 96 people, plus enough parking in just that little area. Inconsistent with surrounding neighborhood, surrounded on 3 sides by Apache Junction townhomes, single level, 3 to 4 bedroom townhomes is what we have. There are 12 3-bedroom townhomes with double garages, 2 bathrooms, and 12-foot backyards that are on Rosa Street that will be backed up to the 3 2-story apartments with a maximum of 72 people total on Rosa Street already legally able to be in those. They could build the same amount of single homes because it's right out my backyard. Loss of privacy. 2nd stories have balconies and windows facing, looking directly down into our backyards and bedrooms. All apartment complexes that I've seen have had balconies and windows facing the streets, which is where they should be facing, on their property and their street, not ours. No windows or balconies on any north side 2nd level if you choose to do that. None of us think that they should go in there because it is going to be horrific. It's just going to, it's way too big and too much in that little area. Our wall is only 4 feet tall, and we can still see in our windows and yards from the 1st-story buildings. No privacy. Apache Junction townhouse entrance is 6 foot high.
That's the end of your, that's the
And the other
end.
one is 7 foot high.
That's the end of your time.
Okay.
Thank you. Linda
Thank you.
Thomas.
She had to leave. But
Okay.
she's with me. Could I finish mine?
No.
Because we're together on this.
Thank you.
All right.
Any comments from the council?
Yeah, Your Honor. Can staff at least look at the height of that wall? When I hear 4-foot wall, I mean, that doesn't even sound right. I would think 6 or 8 foot. That's a reasonable request or concern. Can we address that?
We can certainly look into that and
Yeah.
be ready, prepared next time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anyone else?
No.
I will adjourn the meeting.